Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Lizette Santos. I'm with the New York, New Jersey Minority Supplier Development Council. And we thank you all for joining us today for How to Do Business with Pfizer. Just a couple of housekeeping rules. Please keep your microphones muted. And just out of respect to our presenters, the chat will be available if you'd like to type in any questions that you might have. And I'd like to introduce our president and CEO, Mr. Terrence Clark, who's kind enough to join us today. Terrence? Terrence, I'm sorry, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Once again, good morning, everybody, and thank you everybody for participating, specifically our corporate members from Pfizer. As I've said to many of you over the course of the 8 years I've been the president, that one of the major goals that this council is looking at is to put our suppliers in a better position to do business with our corporate members. And so we hold these type of how to do business with our corporate members so that you know basically what it is that they do, how they do what they do, what products and services they offer, so that when you come to try to do business with them, you're prepared. Because what we want to make sure of is that people are in a best position from a procurement ready standpoint to do business with our corporate members. It's one of the major reasons that many of you got certified in the first place. And it is certainly, our goal is to connect people. We're all in the relationship business. And relationships, folks, are important. People do business. You've heard me say this before, but people do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. And so today's the getting to know part. And that's one of the primary things that the council's about, putting you in the room, or in this case, putting you on a Teams conference so that you can get to know about Pfizer and how Pfizer does business. And most importantly, make sure that you're prepared. So if you have a product or service that is connected with what Pfizer purchases, that when you bring yourself to them, you bring yourself to them prepared to do business. You have the 3 M's in place, which is management, marketing, and money. And most importantly, you can talk about how you can help them with the growth and development of their business, because these things don't work, folks, if this is not mutually beneficial. So today you'll get some information that will lead toward that. Everybody recognize that this is not instant gratification. So it takes a while to get into a supply chain. It takes a while to make sure that your products and services align with Pfizer's needs. So don't think because you spoke to somebody today and they provide you a list of products and one of your products or services on that list, that's automatically needed. Get a chance to learn about what Pfizer does and get a chance to ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you don't get answers. So that's the most important thing. Pay attention to what's going on. If you have questions, ask. And hopefully the information you get over the next hour or so will be helpful to you as you continue to grow and develop your client base and your business. So thanks for your time. I greatly appreciate it. And without further ado, am I picking this up to you, Colleen?
Yeah, that would be great.
Terrific.
Are we good to go, Lizette?
Yes, you are, Colleen. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Terrence. And I support, a lot of the direction or counsel that you just offered is really will be reflected in what we chat about today. So just for the group here today, my name is Colleen Masha. I lead our supplier diversity efforts at Pfizer, and I've brought with me 3 of my very seasoned category colleagues. And our goal today is really just to, provide you with some information about Pfizer. I'll talk about our supplier diversity program, but hopefully through the lens that it offers value to you. And then probably what you'll gain the most from is our category deep dives, and we'll have some time for Q&A, and we'll do our best to answer questions for you today. Yeah, so that again, thanks for taking time out. So I'll just dig in here. This is the group that I have with us today. So if you don't mind, I'll have the colleagues introduce themselves as we get to their section of the presentation. Supplier diversity at Pfizer has been around for 20 years plus. It really started as a compliance program that we needed to report to the government, but it's really evolved into a place of empowerment, as we like to say, for our small and diverse businesses. Many of your names I'm recognizing from a couple of outreaches that we've just done lately. So it's as Terrence reflected, it's really around the connections, right? So as we continue to know each other and meet each other, I think that's how we evolve our conversations and figure out the opportunities. But we did have a breakthrough goal at Pfizer. We talk about breakthrough goals. And we did have one that we put forward for our program to ladder up to the enterprise goal. And that was to increase our spend with diverse suppliers by 50% by the year 2025. So as many of you know, Pfizer did have a really busy year last year, and I think that fed into us achieving our goal early. So the real breakthrough is going to be to sustain that, but we're really proud of that. There's a lot of small and diverse businesses that help us, most importantly, move. The needle on the COVID vaccine, the original one. There's a couple of stories that we've highlighted there. Um, yeah, a couple more things. We have received a couple of awards, one from this group. My manager, Ellen Jameson, was awarded a service award, and she's really enjoyed her time working with this group and getting to know these suppliers. But we did, we made our small business goal. More importantly is that supplier diversity is a component of our diversity, equity, and inclusion program. Um, Honestly, at Pfizer, the focus on the internal diversity of the workforce is the big show right now. But we work really closely with that group. And, supplier diversity is one of the pillars, which really for you means that, as a supplier, you are an extension of Pfizer. Our supply chain is part of who we are. And then lastly, a breakthrough for us is that we did have two of our business units have supplier diversity goals in the business. So, some of those premier programs, supplier diversity programs, have that, and they know that's the way they need to go to move to really pull the program together, right? So you have the people that own the purchasing power and the budgets have the goals in their business to spend with small and diverse businesses. And that's really how it all comes together. So we're getting closer to having all of our business units have targets, but we're not there yet. And here's a little bit about how we do it. Targets I did just chat about, but we do have that commitment in colleagues' goal documents that we do every year. At the heart of it, it's really around inclusive sourcing. So you have colleagues that you'll get to know in a few minutes that, really do take the time when they have a sourcing opportunity to make sure that they have small or diverse talent included in that opportunity, because that's what it's about. It's no one could ever be awarded a piece of business that doesn't make sense. We wouldn't want that for you or for us, but it's really around being inclusive in the opportunity. And if it's in an area that there is a tough, it's challenging to find small and diverse talent, that's when we work with organizations like this one to really find talent. Maybe we have to, cultivate a relationship or develop, but we have some strategies in place to do that. One of them being mentorships. We do work with a lot of the advocacy groups to be partnered up with a mentee. So we don't have a one-off Pfizer mentorship program that you could apply to. But like I said, we opt into all the mentorship programs across the advocacy group. So typically, I facilitate those mentorships, but I bring in experts in our organization that can help support and educate and make progress to that mentee's goals. And sometimes it's, outside of the Pfizer organization, but in the Pfizer network. So, as an example, I rely on a lot of our advertising agencies. I bring them in when we need expertise for a supplier that perhaps was looking for some support on advertising or branding or relaunching. Um, and then, data integrity, we do, I put that there because it's a little bit of the dry spot on our roadmap here, but it's really a necessity because we want to make sure that we know who we're working with in our supply chain and what classifications that they hold. Awareness, we do a lot of educating internally, and that is really so, like I shared before, that the people that do have purchasing power understand the function of supplier diversity, but most importantly, why we do it at Pfizer, why it's important to us, and where it can take us. So we do have a lot of, like I said, one off. I'll go talk to supplier diversity to any team that asks at Pfizer. And we're actually relaunching our internal learning module. We should have that out by the end of Q2. But we're supported internally by leadership to continue to raise awareness. We use a lot of our internal um, uh, social platforms or just platforms to do storytelling. So should we have a success, we were talking to a diverse supplier over a couple of years and they finally got in the door. That's a story worth telling. How did they navigate the Pfizer product, colleague systems, etc. And lastly, I skipped over at connections because really that's what it's about. You're going to continue to talk to me. My goal is always to have you introduced to somebody in the organization that could have a more robust conversation with you about the capabilities that your firm is offering. But also as a group, we try to answer questions about Pfizer that will be of value to you if you're thinking about us for a client, or if you're already in the door, how to grow organically. And that's really my overview for today. Hopefully the heart of this conversation is the next couple of slides. So I am going to hand it over to my colleague, Chris Latini.
Great. Thanks, Colleen, and appreciate the introduction. And just wanted to introduce the category that I manage, which is rigid plastic packaging for Pfizer. One thing that I want to say up front is that this is primary packaging. So what that entails is our packaging that touches the drug product. Secondary packaging is something that also Pfizer is sourcing, but typically that's not handled in a category level through myself. That would be handled locally at our sites. But if you do have questions about secondary packaging, by all means, direct them to me and I can reach out to the sites and help you connect with the right people. So as I was mentioning, I manage the rigid plastic packaging category. It focuses on primary packaging components for our life-changing medicines at our global facilities. So we maintain about 40 manufacturing sites globally, and we support about 600 million plastic components annually with about 45 million in spend annually. These key components include bottles and closures, delivery devices, custom injection molded parts for our sterile injectables business, our small molecule business, as well as our biotech businesses. A bit about the sourcing process that we follow. So we use an Ariba e-sourcing platform where we go out for RFP. Typically, we're liaising with the technical engineering team and the site stakeholders to determine which suppliers will be selected as part of the RFP process. We have a list of strategic suppliers, but we're certainly open to others who bring the value proposition to Pfizer. So after we go through the award process, we will have a supplier site audit and a qualification conducted. and we'll put together either a development agreement or a master supply agreement. This process takes a little while, as to be understood for this industry, and it's critical that we continue to manage these suppliers with a formalized SRM, so supplier relationship management, annual review, to go over continuous improvement opportunities in order to continue providing, your services to Pfizer. I just wanted to go over a little bit of a success story that we had fairly recently. We were notified by our supplier diversity team, including Colleen, of a minority business enterprise in North Carolina near one of our manufacturing sites. They're a rigid plastic molder, and they presented their capabilities to my stakeholders in engineering. They were impressed, and we included them in the RFP process for a delivery device, a plastic syringe, and they were the successful bidder. So we're presently working through qualifications with them and a development agreement, and we'll see them as a preferred supplier moving forward for future business opportunities. So I know I went through that quickly. Down below, I show some of the products that we're sourcing. A lot of them are for our hospital business. Delivery devices for medical components such as the Abiject syringe barrel, Advantage and Advantage breakaway caps, cancer syringes, Activial caps, which are plastic caps on a glass bottle, the Carpiject needle hubs, and then on the right, your traditional, what you think of with pharmaceutical components. So your bottles, your closures, the desiccants that may go in those bottles, as well as plastic vials. We also manage tooling and custom equipment that's necessary for these plastic packagers. So if your company is also a equipment maker, we would certainly entertain, your capabilities and ask that you provide a presentation for us. So now that I've gone through that, do we have any questions in the interim before we get to the next presenter?
If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, or you can unmute yourselves.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, and I welcome the opportunity to connect in the future.
Thanks, Chris. And next we have Bob Napoli.
Thanks, Colleen. Just by way of introduction, as Colleen said, my name is Bob Napoli. I've been at Pfizer for almost 17 years, all within the IT sourcing space. So the team I'm part of supports the traditional IT categories, professional services, software, hardware, and the like. I happen to focus mostly on our enterprise software and SaaS space, as well as associated services. When we kicked off the meeting today, and Terrence raised a couple of points, and it looked like he was kind of peeking at my notes. So Terrence, very very well done. I think it's really important, and what I'm going to try to talk about, I think, is definitely applicable to Pfizer, but I think it applies to probably all of your pursuits, right, with large enterprises. And I think, Terrence, your point about needing to ensure that whatever you're pursuing is mutually beneficial, and having patience, right, due to the fact that it tends to take time. And I think, Chris, probably the example you just gave didn't happen overnight. I'm sure that took time to percolate. But we recently, Colleen and I and a couple of other folks recently attended a large diversity event. And one of the things that struck me, particularly in the space that I support, is there's an awful lot of diverse suppliers out there who are within the IT space, and particularly the IT services space. And as I had discussions, and I met, there's so many great folks with really interesting ideas and insights, and just really nice people. But one of the things that struck me is, after a couple of days, it all sounded very similar, right? So as I sat back and thought about it, I think this gets back to something that Terrence mentioned, is something I tried to emphasize with the folks I met, right, is try to think about and this goes particularly in the IT space, I'm sure it applies to others. Try to think about what it is your company does, right? That's really important. What they do really well, right? Because if you come to me or anybody else and say, yeah, we can do everything, well, that's not going to resonate, right? But what do you do really well, right? What do you think, if you were given the opportunity at Pfizer, what would you want it to be that you would kind of knock out of the park? But as I thought even more about it, I think it goes a little beyond that, right? Try to anticipate what it is a company like Pfizer needs, right, in the current time, and that changes over time, right? Are we are we in the middle of a large acquisition, right, or are we in the middle of some sort of transformation, right? Because what I was struck by, as I said, is each company came up, and right, there were some really impressive folks I spoke to, but they all had a very similar message, right? And it's really hard to distinguish one from the other, right? So I think as you approach, customers like Pfizer or any of your potential targets, really think about where your strengths match up with that client's or that potential client's needs, right? That's tremendously important. Otherwise, you're really up against a lot of stiff competition, and so, I really thought that was something I came away from this event really thinking about, that there's an awful lot of you out there, and you need to really think about how you stand above some of the others. Um, so I think, Chris did a really good job of walking through. My slide here looks very similar to his, right? Our processing in IT is very similar, although also, we use the same platforms of Ariba e-sourcing, although not all opportunities are necessarily going to go through a sourcing process, right? If in my experience, most of the initial engagements we have with diverse suppliers, particularly, tend to be slightly smaller, right? It allows us to learn about the supplier. It gives a supplier the opportunity to undertake a project at Pfizer that's manageable and is more likely to lead to a successful first engagement, which is critical, right? You can imagine what would happen if that initial engagement was unsuccessful, right? If it was something that was either, perhaps a little larger than the supplier should have been pursuing, or perhaps outside of their area of expertise. So we really try to target opportunities and ensure that they are, they are kind of, the supplier is kind of fit for purpose. And as I said, I think I've covered most of the rest of this slide already, or Chris did, I should say. Yeah, so I think that's most of the message I wanted to convey today. But if I had to come away with one key point, is really try to distinguish yourselves from the field, right? And do that by doing your homework around your target, right, and understanding what you believe their needs are, right, and then how your offerings meet those needs. And if you don't believe your offering meets those needs, then perhaps it's just not the right time for that discussion. So Colleen, I think that covers my what I wanted to cover today. I'm happy to take questions now or at the end.
Robert, hi,
Yeah,
this is Lizette. I have a question from Sal Austin. He
sure.
said he was wondering if Pfizer upgraded to Wi-Fi 6 as it is yet at the national locations.
Yeah,
If not, we can help, he says.
yeah. Please have him follow up with Colleen. I think you're going to, either in the deck somewhere, you probably have a contact point. If you could follow up with that question. I actually don't cover the the networking side of things here. I'm well aware of Wi-Fi 6 because I'm running it at home here, but I can certainly look into that and circle back through through Colleen or directly.
Yep. On the last slide, I have my email information. So Sal, if you could just, um, anybody who wants to follow up with me, you can email me. If you could just put in New York, New Jersey Council in the subject line, that helps me keep organized. But I'll work to sort out the questions to the appropriate person at Pfizer. And before we move off of digital, I just wanted to say that the digital organization is one of the business units that does have supplier diversity goals in their goals in their goal document for this year, which is really great because it opens a door for Bob and his team to really, build some strategies around supplier diversity. Once those stakeholders are thinking about it. So it's really turning into a nice partnership. We have some great advocates on the business side in the business unit. I think they're a good example for some of the other business units to look towards what we can do.
Pauline, so the remainder of the questions that are here, I'll have them address your email. I'll put your email in the chat. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure. Is there anything like more discussion or conversational this week?
Yeah, I'm
So,
looking at the
please.
chat now. I see some of them are somewhat general. So I see there's a question around a point of contact for cybersecurity. Again, back to some of the points I was raising. Please forward your capabilities to Colleen at the email address, but try to be really specific around around what you think you can offer to Pfizer. I will say one of the challenges, and I had this discussion many times at that event I alluded to, is that as you'd imagine, right? Pfizer has a broad spectrum of providers, right? Service providers, both diverse as well as some of the larger players, and there's not a lot of areas or no areas I can think of right now where we're badly in need of a specific capability. But having said that, I'm certainly interested in understanding the capabilities, and whether it would be me directly or somebody else on the team I'm part of. I'd try to help make those connections through Colleen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sal Austin with DGX Security out of New Jersey. We are value-added technology resellers with a focus on Wi-Fi and AI. And you mentioned you want the company to focus on their strengths. We actually just completed upgrading 2 county parks in New Jersey to Wi-Fi 6. So we actually have our experience, and we are looking forward to earning some business. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sal. All right, so maybe I'll move on to my colleague, Beatrice. It's going to talk about consulting and people experience services. Leah? Oh, you want me to mute?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Otherwise we're gonna have. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? You're gonna have to.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Beatrice Vargas from Pfizer Sourcing and Enterprise Services. I'm going to talk about the procurement and professional services sourcing here at Pfizer, as well as people experience. It's always a tough to follow this Bob also. He's so good at just providing so much guidance. And I want to not talk about this slide. I want to provide some guidance too and some examples as to how we have been able to augment, especially over the past 3 years. This category is very difficult. As you can imagine, we're a Fortune 50 company. We have 90,000 employees. Health insurance, benefits, these are really the largest expenditures of my category responsibility. So it's very, how do we put minority spend in the mix? So I have a unique experience, but prior to coming to Pfizer, like I said, I've been here 5 years. Prior to coming to Pfizer, I was a strategic sourcing consultant. I started in the Big Fours with PwC, and then I ventured into a woman-owned business for 13 years. So I do have a 360 view of the two sides of the negotiation table now. And had I known what I know today when I was on your seat, I would have done a much better job. So I'm going to share some of the nuggets of wisdom that I have, and I hope that it can help. Some of the things that having the knowledge of being on the other side has helped me augment the spend in this arena at Pfizer. First of all, I was always a tier 2 direct spend. I was always hired by whether it was the Hackett Group, Accenture, IBM Consulting. on a 1099, and I was a tier 2 direct. And that was one of the things that we embarked into over the past 3 years, is to demand, actually, not, we just kindly ask, but we just like persisted to the largest firms that, they're all, large firms. They all do business with us: PwC, McKinsey, BCG, Accenture, Deloitte, Ernst& Young. So we started planting the seed just to help them help us with this reporting also. So because it is so difficult for us to hire a small business that can, put a team together, a global team, in 3 months or 3 weeks. We started doing that, and we actually got a lot of traction. So developing and partnering with the large suppliers so they can help us, bring on board in our teams that are working across Pfizer as a whole, bringing some of those people that can, be subject matter experts, whether it is in market access or strategic consulting, new product launches, marketing. So those are some of the areas where we have been able to get some traction. The other areas where we get some tractions is by developing and mentoring. Colleen mentioned that. We had, for instance, the most recent examples, and I just finished writing an article about these for our internal newsletter. I got two great examples. One is co-development by one of the suppliers. Is called DKI Health. It's a group of women-owned business, and they started working for IQVIA, which is one of our largest vendors, and they started their own business. And because we knew them at Pfizer, they started doing a lot of patient advocacy work in the anti-infectives, in COVID-19, and in our metastatic breast cancer franchise. So they were so well known that for 5 years, they continue to expand. So they grew organically, and we wanted to collaborate with them. So to have them as tier 1 with Accenture. So because Accenture has a lot of digital work at Pfizer, but they want to expand in the products area. So we have them collaborate, and they're building a joint venture to go in front of our brand teams to present work together as co-primaries. So that's one way that we help develop them. However, that journey of 5 years of them proving themselves to really stay at Pfizer and have great references, that's been mentioned already by everyone before me. You have to be patient and resilient and continue to explore different ways that you can continue to do work and provide the value that we're looking for. And, that was one of the things I couldn't understand. Like, I have all this, I have this IP, I have all this material, but that wasn't what the market was in need for. So that is always so important to understand what the companies that you're going after, understanding what their purpose is. And Pfizer just is very specific in our website. You can always look at our blueprint and where we're going after. So I strongly encourage everyone in this call to continue to educate yourselves and tailoring your services and your products to what your clients are really in need for. Just look at the future vision and mission statements. The other one is just participating in all of these events. We have also, the other example I wanted to give you, I had an engineering firm, a minority-owned engineering firm. After 3 years, just participating in RFPs, we continue to develop them, mentor them, giving them constructive feedback. They finally got a big $5 million project in our Rocky Mount facility. But it was also through continuous communication and just mentoring them and trying to help them understand what the needs are of the business. And they were just resilient. They continue to do work. They continue to improve upon their proposals. But again, it took some work. So putting them in front of our engineers and our plant managers, that was also a learning curve, a very steep learning curve, but they were able to do that. And that was yet another win. So by improving also the tier 1, by doing co-primaries, by doing more tier 2 direct, and that was my only clientele. I always had consulting firms being my clients, not really, very few contracts I signed directly with large corporations. So today, now I know that through Pfizer and all these activities that I have become a part of, it's easier to do business, or at least the walls don't look so tall for me. But we're here to extend the hand to help you get through the journey. But you, like Bob also said, I mean, you have to find really, really what is it that we're looking for, and what is the value proposition, and how can that align with our value proposition and the things that we want to do, because we're here to save patients' lives. I mean, our CEO tells us that every single day. And that is, at the end of the day, that's what matters for us. So we want to bring people that can help us attain that mission and that vision. And with that, I'll open it up also for any questions.
Hi, Beatrice. I had a question. My name is Godfrey Bakuli. I'm the founder and CEO of Pioneer Strategy Group. We're a corporate innovation consultancy. Thanks so much to you, Bob, Chris, and Colleen so far. I guess I'm kind of noticing a few differences between the way Pfizer organizes itself and how I think of procurement at other companies like Pepsi, Merck, P&G that I worked with in the past. They talk upfront a lot about the importance of their supplier diversity portal, and this idea of we have the central clearinghouse you come through, and we'll use that to kind of sift through who you are and know your profile. I haven't heard that so much. I'm curious about that. Then this idea you just said, which is I thought kind of provocative, of saying partner with the Bains and McKinseys of the world, whereas I've had other procurement people say, no, we want to displace them with you, so don't partner with them. Long way of saying the discussion I wanted to have was, how would you all think, I know procurement people have had, you guys are in demand, diverse careers at different places. What differs Pfizer's way of sourcing from other enterprises? So when we approach you, I don't bring the same hat I bring to approaching Pepsi or Merck or things like that.
It's a great question. And the first half would be for Colleen to manage, but I can tell you the second half. So we want all of them, right? So the thing is that realistically, when you have we're now changing the strategy. So we're moving from COVID to a whole different, if you look at the news, we just are acquiring a new big business to go after oncology, right? So why can't we just I mean, I would say if I was on your side of the table, I would be creating a consortium of small businesses to go after large corporations, right? Because then that way you can augment. Well, you cannot just buy from one vendor, a small diverse owned business, the large scale projects that we have at a global scale. And that's why when we say just partner with the large ones, is because at least we can get tier 2 spend going through it, or like what I mentioned, which is the co-primary arrangements, because then that firm, DKI, can just be, developing patient advocacy work and strategy, while, Accenture can be doing the new product launch archetype, or analysis, in which countries are we going to launch this product? Is it going to be in Japan or in the US? So it could be so many. It doesn't have to be just one way. I mean, we're open to new innovative ways of working. So, and we're looking for innovation from you guys to tell us, how else can we, go to market, and have more inclusion. I know that there are so many other, like, to me, I was much more successful in the food and beverage industry. I had Guinness UDV, I had General Electric as a client, I had Delphi Automotive. They have really big portals for supplier diversity, whereas at Pfizer, I think we're just trying to develop our new ways of working in this space, because it is becoming more and more important. But I will delegate the other half of that question, the first half, to Colleen.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. And yeah, we don't have, I think what
Up, you muted, Colleen.
We can't hear you.
Still muted.
Okay, sorry about that. We're in the same room, so we're trying to make sure we don't have that feedback. But what I think you're hearing from myself and the colleagues is that there's no one path into Pfizer. We currently don't have a portal, and that's partly by design, because when we had one in the past, it really it was not dynamic. So, they ask for suppliers like yourself to take time and put in a profile that was not being looked at by the organization that, in real time when sourcing opportunities came up. We felt that was a little bit disingenuous. We are working to get something in place that we do feel would be a real tool to progress both the connections that this audience would have with the right people at Pfizer. So until we really feel comfortable with that, right now I am the portal. So that's why I'm always happy to put my email out there. When you send me an email, we do also have a supplier diversity email some of you may have, but I am the, behind the curtain. I do look through the supplier diversity mailbox. So here's my contact information. And when you send it to me, like I said, I'm echoing what my colleagues say. Sometimes I get an email. For an example, I had a small advertising agency that went to one of the congresses in the cardiovascular space, and they send me an email, and Colleen, I really think that Pfizer's missing an opportunity here. To be clear, we're not looking for your free ideas, but it was a really nice teaser that I sent that email directly to my marketing colleague who, that got them at least a 15-minute call about that thought, and they have continued a conversation. So, there is a lift on your side to do a little homework. But I think when you can strike the right chord, if you're throwing something out there that speaks to, some of the sourcing colleagues or the business stakeholders, that's really what we are happy about and can pass along. I challenged my colleagues today to bring forward some success stories because, we want to give this audience a sense of how it's happening. And I think you've heard it's really around that connection, another connection, another connection. It's just like that talking until the timing's right. And sometimes, it does come down to timing. But it is happening. And, Pfizer supplier diversity is becoming more and more visible in the organization at a leadership level. So, we're not the $1 billion round table people yet. But we're making a strategic decision of, can we aspire to there? So it's a long answer. We don't have a portal. Here's my email, and I look forward to connecting with you and to hopefully answering your questions or to pass you along to somebody who can answer your question.
Thank you so much.
That was the end of our categories selection today. So, we are open to continuing the conversation if there's more questions. I think I'll just take this down. I'll put my contact in the chat. Were there any questions in the chat that we should go back to?
Krista had a question, but it seemed to go back to the cybersecurity regarding, are there certain characteristics that you are looking for among cybersecurity suppliers?
Yeah, so this is Bob Napoli again. So within Pfizer, as you'd expect, right, cybersecurity is an area of extreme focus and one that we take tremendously seriously and have very well covered. Right? When I see the stats, and I can't recall off the top of my head of the number of intrusions that our cybersecurity team stops every day, is mind-boggling. But I would say it's probably a challenging area to penetrate within Pfizer just because of how kind of forward-leaning they've been, right, and how proactive they've been in ensuring that it's well covered. But as I indicated, if there are areas, Chris, of strength, and anybody on this call who specializes in that area that you feel you folks really exceed at, right, and might be able to add value to, please emphasize that, right, in a communication to the email address Colleen provided, and we'll take a look and share it with our cyber folk. If something resonates with them, where they feel it's worth having a discussion, we'll facilitate that.
Thank you so much, Robert. And Kim, I see your hand up, and then we'll go to Enrique. Kim?
Thank you. My name is Kim Cockrum. I am the owner of Baker Eubanks. We are an employment background screening firm. I had the opportunity to be at WeBank last week and got a chance to meet you folks. And I do appreciate the honesty of the portal situation. It does take a lot of time for a small business owner to go to all of these portals. So I appreciate that transparency. I do have a question about a firm like mine being partnering with one of your suppliers directly as a tier two. I know that that's a wonderful idea, but I don't. I would love to get some feedback on how to approach that. Because of what I do, I assume that I would reach out to you, Beatrice, because I'm professional services. But I just wanted to ask that question directly.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, that journey is a very steep learning curve. I don't have an answer that is concrete, but I can tell you what I did and to be in front of Fortune 100 companies. So there are so many tools out there. First of all, I would go to the company's website and I would contact them. Um, and I would directly just, set up a time to discuss with them my capabilities. So, I mean, and background check, that is a very broad category. I I don't even know who do we have right now. There's at least two. We use them mostly in our I mean, we use them all over the world, but all the regions have different requirements. But that was, how I would begin the journey of doing that. Now they are not consulting firms. For us, we just go there directly. So I really don't have that much experience in that area, but that's how I would go starting, to search for clients, as well as going to, like there are so many portals out there that I would use to get also, like I say, it was most strategic consulting. I was in advisory. Um, so HR, I do manage HR, but I mean, again, send me your info through Colleen, because I can also escalate it to and just look for other options here as to how are we able to use someone like you for this type of engagement. Because I know there came a point during COVID that we couldn't have enough people just helping us with everything, trying to get more resources.
Okay, great. I'll start there because that's the big roadblock is
I hope that
finding out
answers the question.
It does, but that is the big roadblock is finding out which companies are being used currently so that I know who you introduced myself to.
I think you're muted, Kim.
Oh, am I? I'm sorry. I don't.
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you very much for that. I'll send my information to Colleen and hopefully it'll get to you and I can make contact with your tier ones.
Thank you, Kim. Enrique, do you want to unmute yourself or? I can't hear you, Enrique. I'm not sure what's going on.
Now or no?
Yes, you might want to put your volume up a little bit more.
Okay. So I believe my question was really around Arriba e-sourcing, because I saw that in each of the slides that was mentioned. Beatriz, I'm following your lead. We actually have a strategic partnership with a large insurance broker, the third largest in the world. I'm with Alamo Insurance Group, and so we have a partnership with AJ Gallagher. And so I think that I agree wholeheartedly. I think that is a great way to get our foot in the door, and for companies such as Pfizer that have DE&I goals and would consider us. I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's been part of our our strategy, right? But when we look at companies, especially Fortune 500 companies, they're looking at whether that is through human resources, the employee benefits, or risk management consulting services. That's something that they go out to bid every 3 years, maybe. And so that's why my question was, does it make most sense for us to look at this Ariba e-sourcing get on there to see if there are opportunities for RFPs to respond to. Is that what you would recommend, or contact Colleen and see how to go about doing that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
a great question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Robert, if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was just gonna say around Ariba East sourcing, the way we manage that is providers are registered on an event by event basis, right? So we don't have, we don't have an open portal into Ariba where potential suppliers can just register and then, kind of pull down RFPs as they come up. So there's really not a need or an ability to kind of pre-register on Ariba. But if you were going to be part of a sourcing event, we would get the information and have you registered there. I can't answer. I don't know, Colleen, or if you or Bea can answer the question around who manages the kind of the insurance side of things at Pfizer.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. And that is our finance, those are our finance risk. We have an entire area that manages finance and risk management team. So that would be, yeah. So, but yeah, thank you, Bob.
Thank you guys for that. And now Erica Beckford, I see your hand is up.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Erica Beckford. I own MC Samuels Logistics, and I just had a quick question in regards to like supply chain. I work with truck drivers all day, every day, and I wanted to know if there are diversity goals in the logistics space. And I know during COVID, you guys had to ship all of those vaccines, and I wanted to know if there were any challenges that you guys face in the logistics and the supply chain operations.
Hey, Erica. Um, Thank you for the question, and I believe I'm familiar with your firm. I don't have our expert on the call right now for logistics, but I took down your question, so I'll work to get back to you. As far as goals, all of our category colleagues within the sourcing organization do have a goal that we ladder up to for the enterprise. So the answer is yes. I would just have to figure it. I know there's some, I know enough to be dangerous. So if you'll allow me, if you wouldn't mind emailing me that question, I can send it to my colleague, and perhaps we can foster a conversation, if that makes sense, directly with them.
That would be awesome. Thank you. Have a good day.
And I think, Erica, to your question about some of the challenges that we're facing, I know
I have muted my.
So, Erica, related to some of the challenges that we're facing, I know in my space, some of the challenges that we're facing are related to labor, related to truck drivers, on-time pickups and things of that nature. Some of the things that are impacting the global economy in general. Lack of people wanting to, drive trucks versus going to college and things of that nature. So we're seeing a lot of staffing issues from some of our logistics providers, and as well, just continuing rising costs. So those are some of the things that we've seen in my space. But I don't touch the logistics aspect of things. It's just something that comes along with the packaging components being shipped.
Thank you for that. And I did have a quick question for you as well, Christopher. Like when it comes to you guys packaging the medications, do you guys send the medications to another warehouse for them to package and then they send it back to you or to your customers? How does that whole thing work? Do you know?
Yes. So most of the packaging components that I was referencing are bulk packed at our plastic manufacturers and then shipped to our manufacturing sites. So they're palletized, they're shrink wrapped, they're put in corrugate, things of that nature. We're not sending them out specifically to another organization, then having them shipped back. They're being done at the suppliers themselves.
Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
Bruce, I see your hand is up. Bruce, you're muted. We can't hear you. I'm sorry, Bruce. It looks like you're still having technical issues. Would you prefer to type it in the chat if might be easier? And Bruce, while you figure it out, I see we'll go to Benita.
Hi, good morning. My name is Bonnie Boone and Benita, but I work for JP West and we are insurance brokers. And so, commercial insurance brokers. I was the first Black woman that Marsh McLennan promoted in the industry back in 1992. So my hair is genuinely white, no color here. But my question is the best option um, to partner. I think Enrique was asking him about his sole partner, but our goal is, because we came from the big houses, is that we have talent and expertise. And so should we just look for an RFP opportunity with Pfizer or partner with a larger firm, which, as I say, all of our staff came from the big houses.
Well, I would encourage you to definitely pull those levers if you have relationships with a large firm that you know is currently partnering with us. I would definitely ask them about that. You can elevate, the discussion yourself. Obviously, I've heard from a lot of suppliers like yourself is that a Pfizer colleague needs to say to that partner, "Hey, this is what we're looking for." Like, Beatrice has really done that in the consulting space with some of those usual suspects. So we do understand the dynamic of it. You're not going to just, but I encourage you, like I said, to pull those levers of those relationships that you have, because if they're not thinking of it, they should be, because that is the ask from clients. And I know it's clients like us as well of their partners. But I did, I saw your question in the chat. I do need to
Thank
get
you.
back to you because I'm not exactly sure how we're sourcing the commercial insurance. So I'll work to get a response for you. But like I said, there's no, one path into our organization. So continue to pull those relationships. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did, I'm going to lose my colleagues at 11. So I just want to put that out there.
Oh,
Bruce,
can
you
you?
ready? Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Oh, great. Had a question for Christopher. Christopher, I specialize, I'm with Proforma Edge. We're one of the largest distributors of commercial printing and packaging in the country. And I wanted to just understand a little bit more about the secondary packaging that you mentioned was purchased out of the different facilities, was it 40 different facilities, and kind of how that worked?
Yeah, so great question, and it's something that we can take offline if you need a more detailed answer. But from primary packaging, we do that on a category level. So I sit above site at one of our commercial facilities where we manage the strategic sourcing of those components. For secondary packaging, it's site-based, so it's based out of each of our manufacturing sites where they do the localized sourcing with the secondary packaging suppliers. They know the final packaging that our drug products and our primary packaging are going into to the market. So they deal with the artwork on those cartons, they deal with the leaflets, they deal with all of those secondary components directly from their sites. We don't really have any, global input on that right now. I understand it could be changing in the future, but it's more site-based and locally based by region.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So to connect offline and learn a little bit more about how that works and maybe some of their pain points and sharing my capabilities, would I do that with Colleen or directly
I'm
with you?
typing. Oh, sorry,
Nope, go
Colleen.
ahead,
I was
Chris.
going to say I'll type my email in the chat and we can go from there.
Okay, thank you. That
Thank
was my only
you.
question.
And Joe Edwards, I'm gonna follow up with you, but I can just let you know right now, just from a quick look at your offerings, we do have a lot of partnerships at the, as you can imagine, at the holding company level with a lot of our advertising firms, the usual suspects again. But we do have a nice base of small and diverse suppliers that are in the door in that area for some of the niche offerings. So if you could send me your capabilities, that would be great.
Thank you.
Colleen, I think that's it for the questions, unless there are any others. Your information is in the chat for those that have additional questions for you or the team or Christopher.
Yeah, please follow up. It may, take me a little time, but I do try to get back to everybody. Don't feel that you can't reach out to me again. And, we do a lot of outreach, especially with this group, because I'm in the New York office. So we are local to attend some of those events in person. So I do look forward to seeing you in person, sometime later this year as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I was checking to see, I wasn't sure if Terrence was still with us. I wanted to thank you guys, and yes, there he is. Terrence.
Okay, thank you, Lisette. And first and foremost, I want to thank uh, our corporate members and colleagues from Pfizer. I think the information they gave to all of you this morning was extremely helpful and enlightening. You learned that there are different ways to be able to do business with Pfizer, uh, which is extremely important. You also learned about the fact that you need to provide services that are innovative, and you need to talk about what your differentiator is. As Robert had mentioned, there's a variety of people, and I can tell you we have 1,400 clients, and we have a lot of people that are in IT, as I call it, IT something, IT services, IT something. And so you've got to be able to talk about what it is that you provide that is different than what your other 25, 30, 100 or so colleagues provide. And that's what, not just IT, that's anything. Because whatever it is that you provide, trust me, there's a whole lot of people that provide something similar or sound similar, and you need to make sure that people understand what it is you do. And, this morning we were able to get information concerning that. I'm really pleased that our colleagues at Pfizer provided this information to you. Take full advantage of this, because you don't always get this kind of candid information from our corporate members. But today you have. Now it's incumbent upon you to look at what they presented and determine the best way, if you have a product or service that they are looking for, to be able to connect with them and ensure one other thing. As I said earlier, and as some of our colleagues mentioned, is that this is not a short-term process, ladies and gentlemen. You got to be in this for the long run, and if you're willing to do that, then good things can happen. But you've got to be willing to not think that because I was at this event today, which is the 28th of March, that all of a sudden something's going to happen April 28th or May 28th. It may happen April 28th, it may be April 28th of 2024 or 2025. But you have to recognize, folks, that there are other people in the Pfizer supply chain who do the same thing you do and have done it and probably have developed a relationship. So it's incumbent upon you to develop these relationships. And that's where, when we have these events, and the next one is our Business Opportunity Exchange, which is on May 18th in person in New York City, you need to come to these things. Because, I hear people say, I didn't get anything out of this. Well, if you're in a relationship with anybody, you're really not going to develop a great relationship after your first date. And maybe some people were lucky and able to do that. I know it took me 2.5 years to get to my wife, so I know that doesn't work. But you've got to be able to stay in this and keep coming to these things and keep talking about not only what contract opportunities are available, but bring people up to date on the things you do and the things that have changed in your company so that they can get familiar with you because they see a lot of you. There's one of you that's talking to them at that point. But there are thousands of suppliers in the NMSCC network. Add the ones that are in the WeBank network. Add the ones that are in the NGLCC network. I'm talking a lot of folks. So it's incumbent upon you to stay in contact, be persistent without being annoying. Very important. Because once you become annoying, there's that button on everybody's computer called delete. And you don't want to get to that. But you also want to talk about how do I get more business opportunities, bringing people up to date on what it is you do. And I think today, our colleagues did a wonderful job in giving you an insight into how business is done at Pfizer. So I want to thank them again. I look forward to seeing our colleagues at our event on May 18th. And I look forward to seeing many of you at our event on May 18th, which, as I said, is in person, folks. So they won't be, whether you're on mute or it'll be in person, face to face, in Lower Manhattan at BNY Mellon. And you should be receiving information about this very shortly. So once again, colleagues, thank you so much for your time this morning. And everybody have a wonderful and great day. And if there's anything, as I always say to you, that the council can do to be of assistance to you in the growth and development of your business,